Hello everyone, Dr. Zizzi here. I decided to do another podcast because I've been asking everyone in class to share their thoughts on this documentary series produced by HBO and the Government Institute of Medicine. And I thought, okay, well, I have a lot of these thoughts as well, and I wanted you to be able to measure up some of the reactions you're having to see if they're different than mine. Now, I'm sure they are. Many of you, it's the first time you've been exposed to this idea of the toxic environment, and it can be a difficult concept because you always want to point back to, well, if people just made better decisions, then we wouldn't be in this problem. But then you have to wrestle with the idea that that would mean in the last 20 years, when this crisis occurred, that America got somehow lazier, less motivated, less interested in fitness, and then it was due to a lack of personal willpower that caused this crisis. And that would be completely false, because that would be your parents' generation that would be to blame then. So it is certainly part of the equation, but the thing that has changed dramatically in the last 20 years is the toxicity of the environment. And I think the chapter that you read out of Food Fight, that book presents a very compelling argument, this mismatch between biology and the environment. So I'm going to go through my reactions to the first couple parts of this, and then I'll follow up later in the class with some reactions to the last two episodes of The Weight of the Nation. I will do my best to be brief, and I hope you find it useful. You know, this first one focused really a lot on getting you to pay attention. You know, they entitled it Consequences, and basically the idea behind it is scaring people into thinking that this is an actual crisis, and it certainly is. The data, I mean, you would have had to have been asleep if the data didn't absolutely scare you and frighten you. Now, much of this data I've seen before. I mean, this is my job. I know these statistics in and out. I've researched studies that we publish data like this. And so I've tried to pull out a few that I thought, wow, you know, if you're going to start to educate people and let them know why this is a problem, here's a few that might cause you to get some interest from other people. Because really that's your job now. I mean, taking exercise psychology, you're going to go out into a profession possibly where you maybe are going to be involved in someone's fitness or sport, or maybe you're just going to be an active person yourself. And is that enough that you are active? I would say no. I'd say you need to get your coworker. You need to get your mom or dad. You got to get your cousin. And you need to become an advocate for this healthy lifestyle. That could be your role. You know, you need to think about after this class and during this class, what's my role? Who can I impact? And you need to think about impacting 1, 2, 3, 4 people. You really do need to consider that. You know, some of the stats here, we got about a third of adults. It's almost a third of our country that's obese and unable to maintain a healthy weight for their height. And then you've already seen that the health impact that obesity can have, and I'll go reflect on some of those conditions that obesity is linked to. And this starts to get even scarier when you translate it down to children. And you guys looked at some of the studies where they showed that this stuff is developing in childhood. Diabetes, heart disease, plaque, fat on the heart. And, you know, some of these stats show that, you know, 8 times as likely to have high blood pressure as kids who are not obese. And more than 77% of the kids will remain obese as adults if they were obese in childhood. Wow. Man, are we setting kids up for failure? You know, and I think about this every day, you know, when I'm feeding my kids, when I'm active with my kids, and it takes a lot of time to take your kids to the park, to make sure you go out for walks after dinner. But I'm telling you, it's an easy decision to make them a whole life, to make sure that our kids are active and maintaining a healthy weight. There's absolutely nothing I would rather do for them than instill that in them. And I don't care how much time it takes. So that's part of my job as a parent. I thought it was a great stat that 1% of adults have an ideal cardiovascular health. And I'd encourage you to go back and look at that. And I think it was 7 or 8 factors that they went through to indicate. And you ought to check yourself off there. Why would you not aspire to have ideal cardiovascular health? Unless you desire to die. Because otherwise, now that you know, now that you're informed, your ignorance is no longer bliss. I'm sorry. But that's part of the burden of being an educated person, is now you know. So why are you behaving differently? Many other people that we have in our programs or we've interacted with over the great state of West Virginia, they really don't have a sense for what they should be doing, and they certainly don't know how to do it. Once they're educated, now they have a burden. They have a cross to bear, if you will. You know, some of these other statistics don't make a lot of sense, and they certainly didn't to me in college, like that, so what that 20% of every dollar is spent on healthcare? Well, let me just give you an example what that means. So for every car built in the U.S., for whatever it costs Chrysler or Dodge or Ford to build that car, 20% of those costs have to do with the health care of the employees making those cars. Now, if you go and look in Japan and other countries in Asia, those numbers are much lower. It's something like 7 or 8% of every dollar spent on health care. So that gives you a bit of a sense on, well, wait a second, why are we losing labor costs out to other countries? Healthcare. So our system will eventually cripple us. Why can't new companies, hire a lot of people? Because healthcare costs cripple them. The amount it takes to offer benefits and healthcare and retirement packages, it's not just your salary, it's your benefits on top of that. So it certainly got me to pay even more attention to the crisis and what I could be doing more. Some of the most interesting things that I think I'll start to focus more in my classes are this Bogalusa heart study that they went through in Louisiana, and that was really the first instance where they documented the impact that some of the behaviors you can have in childhood on your heart. So they were showing people over time, and that they did autopsies on all the kids who died over the course of this 20-year study, and they started to show plaque and fat buildup even at a very early age. There's a study in West Virginia called the Cardiac Project. You can look it up online, where they've been taking kids' waist and weight and blood pressure in 3rd grade, 5th grade, all throughout West Virginia, and starting to document the development of heart disease and obesity. And it's just a frightening database, the amount of information they have and how early the onset is for some of these kids. And we just have to do better. I think it's such a silent killer, obesity. It's one of the reasons that we haven't woken up and been frightened by it. Even with smoking, even though it's silent, smokers know. They don't breathe, they wheeze, they're out of shape. Your body's pretty tough. You can add on sometimes 60, 80, 100 pounds, particularly if you're a guy, and still pretty much perform in your same duty. Most of us are not out there lifting wood or putting bricks down or stacking roof shingles. I mean, if you're obese, you're not performing those jobs. But most people are sitting at a desk, and certainly sitting at a desk working at a computer, it's a silent killer. But it makes your heart grow, it weakens it, it does it very slowly. And you might wake up 15, 20 years from now, and heck, you only gain 3 or 4 pounds a year, very slowly. Now you're 30 or 40 or 50 pounds overweight. And some of that autopsy stuff is hard to look at, where they looked at the fat attached to organs. But if you need a better reason to eat healthier, I don't know what that reason is. I mean, I cannot imagine something worse happening to your body than fat attaching to it and starting to make it weak. I'm not obsessive, crazy vegan eater or anything like that, but I tell you what, looking at those pictures certainly makes my motivation go up to make the right decisions. They made pretty compelling links that obesity will increase your risk of everything, and that even a modest reduction in your weight, 5 to 7%. So you don't need to go from being 250 to 125. You only need to go from being 250 down to about 225. One thing they don't mention in this documentary, and it was kind of an oversight in my opinion, is part of the reason that you're getting so much dramatic benefit by losing that weight is because the fitness becomes a protective factor. So you can lose some of your weight and increase your fitness. You're going to put yourself at a much lower risk relative to obese populations. One thing I've noticed in West Virginia, again, that they don't really discuss in this documentary is this perception that people don't feel like they're that overweight. So in West Virginia, as you can imagine, we have one of the highest rates of obesity. And so when people look around at Walmart or in the school system, wherever they might work, they might think, oh, there are other people that are much heavier than me, so I'm okay. So that relative perception, until they get an objective number, a BMI, a body fat percentage, a heart blood pressure reading, something, they may not feel like they're at risk. So that low perception of threat, which links back to the health belief model, you'll read about that in your textbook, they may not feel like, hey, I need to go on medication, or I need to go be active. So that lack of perception of threat is very relevant. Some of my favorite quotes that I pulled out from part one, basically, if you just dropped a person into our environment right now and they went with the flow, didn't do anything unusual, they would be overweight or obese. You're looking at almost 70% of the adult population. So you drop a 10-year-old kid into West Virginia, by the time they're adult, they should expect to be overweight or obese unless they have some sort of unusual circumstance. That's kind of frightening. I don't like to get on my my high horse too often, but this second point really gets me, is that we have allowed food industry sources, I think Food Fight does an excellent job of showing you this, to put really cheap food that's of very low nutritional quality in front of everybody, especially kids. And we've allowed them to market that and put it out there, and we've subsidized it, especially with like corn subsidies and high fructose corn syrup. And it's become very profitable, so why would they stop that? Why would they stop selling it? We're in a capitalistic environment. It is the dominant thing in our culture, democracy and capitalism. Get yourself informed and start to understand that. Now this third point is, I think, to get people to understand that it's not only about choice and that there is a role of government in public health. So if you look at New York City and look it up on YouTube, some of the new public health ads they're doing, you'd find those very interesting. They're targeting soda now. They've already passed a law that all fast food restaurants will display calories and fat content on their menu. So if you go to a Subway or a Taco Bell or a Pizza Hut, on the menu that you're looking while you're making a decision will show you how many calories that is. Just that fact alone, now they haven't changed the food they're serving, they haven't done anything, was been shown to reduce caloric consumption by 15 to 20% per meal. So all you need to do is inform the consumer, and they'll make the right decision. And that's an example of local government making a decision that an individual maybe would not do on their own. I like the attitude part that some of the individuals talk about, that it's not like, well, I'd like to, boy, I wish I were lighter. It's, this is what will be. You wake up the next day, there's no options involved. You take the choice out of it. I love that. And that's a good example of willpower. Willpower is not saying what you want to do, setting beautiful goals, telling people about it, posting your goals on Facebook. No, it's day to day getting up and having the will to have the right decision and the right mindset. It's a lot harder said than done. Willpower, totally overrated. Totally overrated in terms of the talk of it. Oh yeah, I'm just a motivated individual. No. Last point here is, this link here. If we don't have some changes in the general health of our country, then the economic climate won't change dramatically. We cannot see economic expansion in a country that's crippled by a healthcare system. So don't be fooled into thinking that it's just a simple thing that individuals have to make different decisions. No, we're in it together. I know we're not in a socialist environment where it's for the common good, but public health is the common good. And every insurance premium I pay here at WVU is affected by the health of everyone else in the state of West Virginia. If everyone else had a dramatic change, I would pay less. And so it's not just about my bottom line, my health. It's a collective. We need to think like the collective and find solutions from a collective perspective. We have to kind of get out of our micro perspective. A couple other points from part two. We are still responsible for these decisions. And so education is a key component. But, frankly, most of the people we work with in our weight loss programs, they pretty much know what to do. They need help knowing how to make it happen. And some of the how stuff here is below, that they're likely to set unrealistic goals. They try to go at their own. They don't necessarily keep portions under control. They tend to fast a lot. They don't want to track their food intake, and they're physically active a couple times a week. So they really miss the mark on at least 4 out of 5 of these suggested strategies. So we are constantly working with them, hammering them on these are the strategies. It's a daily commitment. You have to be fervent, religious about it daily. I mean, you saw some of the interviews of the men and women who have been successful. It takes such a rigorous approach to it. You cannot do it halfway and be successful, especially if you're trying to lose a lot of weight and maintain that. You know, it's definitely a struggle. I've worked with a lot of people to be physically active and lose weight, and I train people in our staff to do that. I'll show you some examples of that in a moment. You know, and it is a fact that for some people, by the time they're obese, it will be harder for them than others. There were some good examples in the Choices Part 2 where they talked about that, how much harder it is, and how that folks who are losing weight and who are already at a higher weight will need less calories and can consume less. So it is in fact harder. That's true. So if that's the case, are you ready to work harder then? So it can be an excuse like, well, it's just harder for me, so I just can't do it. I might as well just give up. Or it can be the reason. So it is a battle. People do need to get ready, and they need to strap it up. Like it takes a serious daily approach to it. This dieting, yo-yo stuff back and forth does not work. Research evidence is out there. Don't do it. Don't try it. It's a waste of time. It doesn't teach you how to live. It is unfortunate. We do see a lot of people that have to hit a low point. Maybe they can't tie their shoes, and I'm not kidding. Maybe they can't see their feet. Maybe they can't wash their back. Some of these things. Maybe they go to their doctor says, you know what, you're going to need to go on dialysis for not managing your diabetes, and you got a shot at losing your legs. I believe they showed at least one patient in there who's lost a leg or two because of diabetes. And then maybe people take it seriously. But isn't it too late? Possibly. You know, frankly, it's never too late. I don't care if you lost both legs. I would still find a way to swim and be physically active. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. You know, getting more on the positive side, there are solutions everywhere. There's great examples in this documentary series. There's great examples in some of the other websites I shared with you. Active Living by Design has some great examples of that. And I'm going to show you one today that I've shared with some students before. That is the weight loss program that we run here out of the Coliseum. It's called the PEIA Weight Management Program. This is our companion site. I'll bring it down here just so you can see the address in case you want to surf it out. And you can even see our tagline. Really, we wrote this a couple years ago, and it's pretty much the same message from Weight of the Nation. It's hard to change your lifestyle, but it's worth it, and we'll help you get there. You know, we're a support mechanism. I want to give you a sense of the scope of this program in West Virginia. It is massive. I'm going to scroll in here as best I can. I'm sorry for the limited map situation. Excuse me. There we go. You can have a look here at the great state of West Virginia and where some of these sites are. We have over 60 active facilities in 29 counties, and this program provides people with access to a registered dietitian, exercise physiologists, and personal trainers. And then here up in Morgantown, we provide phone coaching to people so that they can figure out the best way to make it stick in their lifestyle, in their life, you know, make it fit. So we have a variety of resources available for the sites that provide the program. For participants in the program, we do have a blog. You can check out some of those here that are written by myself and our weight loss counselors. We have a variety of handouts that can be used. We've got some research here that we've done on the program. And so I encourage you to check it out as one example. To our knowledge, this is the only insurance-sponsored program in the country that is this broad in scope. We have over 1,000 people active in this program across the state of West Virginia, and we're constantly working to make it better and better. So I don't want to show you all gloom and doom here. There are a lot of positive things happening in the country to rectify this, and you can be part of that if you want. Some final quotes and messages from Part 2. It is true, people do want the quick fix. We are used to convenience. Some of you pointed that out in your paper, that we are a society built on convenience. I totally agree with that. And physical activity is not convenient, but it does provide a quick fix. I'll be honest with you. Every single day I'm active, I pretty much feel better every single time. So if you can get people to focus on that element of it, they'll keep doing it. It's a reinforcer. It's a great drug. I've found no better in my own life. The weight loss part of it won't be quick. That takes time. And it takes time to get used to being physically active, months and months and months. Changing lifestyle from one that is convenient, eating poorly and being inactive, it's a great quote, requires a considerable amount of effort and attention to detail. It is a radical behavior change. It is. And we've helped tons of people do it. It typically takes them 6 months to a year just to get their handle on eating well and being physically active. Eating usually takes longer because there's so many more decisions you have to make. You can decide to be physically active once a day and really do what you need to do. And eating is 5, 6, 7 times a day. You have to do that. I totally disagree that surgery is the most effective solution. There is research out there to suggest it's highly effective and there's great outcomes, but I also think it sends the implicit message that they can't change themselves. So I totally disagree and am not supportive of that part of the documentary, that surgery is the most effective treatment for morbid obesity. We've had plenty of people in our program, 300 pounds or more, lose 100 or more pounds and keep it off. It is possible. It's much harder, and it's much more worthwhile. So the last myth I want to address today is one that a lot of college students believe, and I certainly believed it when I was in college, but I'm telling you right now, it's false. And you need to stop passing it on to other people. It's a lie. It is a total myth that eating healthier is more expensive. It's false. Fast food is more expensive. Trust me. I'm going to just give you one example, and then I'm going to show you a couple of ways in which we as a family eat much cheaper and healthier than fast food. Probably the last time I took my family out to fast food, where we all ate something in fast food, must have been over a year ago. I think we were on a road trip and we went to Wendy's. My wife and I got salads, and my kids got, like whatever the Happy Meal version was at Wendy's. That meal cost us $18. So, our salads were $6 or $7, and the kids were, $3. $18 for fast food. Man, we got ripped off bad. Not cheap at all. Dollar menu, I don't care. Go ahead and get 2 cheeseburgers, fries, and a drink. That's $4. For $4, you could buy enough rice and beans to eat for 3 days, dinner and lunch. Okay, so for example, my family and I will cook a dinner that will include vegetables, beans, rice, salad. We might eat that again for lunch the next day. We'll end up getting the equivalent of 4 meals out of that. My wife and I, lunch, my wife and I, dinner. Kids will eat some of that probably. We might have a side portion of something else for them to eat. And certainly we can prepare those 4 meals plus feed the kids for under $10, guaranteed. So the thing that's lacking for people is food skills. How to cook vegetables so they taste good. It's not cheaper. It's only more convenient. I would never deny that. Going to fast food, you don't have to clean it up. You don't have to cook it. You go home to your house, it still looks beautiful and clean. For me, all I do is the dishes. I mean, we cook breakfast, I cook myself lunch, and I cook myself dinner. We might slide down to Black Bear every now and then, or I take my wife out to dinner to eat on a date or something. But I can tell you right now, if you learn how to shop, all you need to do is learn how to cook 3 or 4 things that you like to eat, because we don't change that up constantly, right? So in a given week, we cook 4 meals, know what we're going to eat for lunch and breakfast. It's really not that complicated. It takes a couple months to learn that. So if you want to get committed to that, there's plenty of guides online on how to eat on a budget. There's all kinds of free recipes online. I mean, take advantage of those resources and teach yourself how to eat with some canned vegetables or fresh fruit and vegetables, with beans, lentils. There's all kinds of other good stuff that you can eat that you buy in large quantities, and it's cheap. Much, much cheaper than eating fast food. And the amount of nutrients you get out of it is absolutely incredibly better than the garbage they're selling you at those fast food restaurants. So, I hope you've been inspired by the Weight of the Nation series. I hope you will try to inspire others. And I hope you found this latest podcast at least somewhat useful. I look forward to hearing your comments on the next round. Take care.